greet people with kind words, take people to the place where they go without discussion, and give the change complete. So they were selected on that basis, so it was very easy to them to say, well, that's what we are doing, we accept to be zebra knights. What more we can do? Please take 11 stickers, one for your car and 10 for colleagues, and you identify publicly that you obey these 3 rules. So in 3 weeks, there were about 1,500 or a little bit more taxi drivers that had been shown. So sometimes violence does not allow us to see non-violent behavior or good behavior. And I will stop a little bit on voluntary tax. I had won elections promising more taxes 2 times. The first time laughing a little bit. The second time absolutely serious because the social situation of the city caused by economical crisis was bad. And the Treasury Secretary came to my office very worried because the councilmen were elected promising not allowing to raise taxes. So they didn't accept to raise taxes. So what we did, we put in the formulary a voluntary 10% increase in tax for one time or as much as you like. And 63,000 families paid 10% more taxes. If the council at that stage would not accept to raise taxes as it accepted, I would invite the 63,000 families to get in a manifestation. Obviously that would be a bigger happening than those that I have told you. So the councilmen understood and they accepted to raise taxes. Not exactly the real estate tax, that was my proposal, but the industry and commerce tax. But the city finances were going well. These collective actions have typically the structure of collective actions. If only few people cooperate, the result is not obtained, and they have made expenses and costs, and they have put their effort, and nothing good comes up. And so for this stage, unconditional cooperators are very important. But once you get here there are a lot of conditional cooperators that say it's working. So feedback was very important. Each week we were announcing on radio and television how much we had saved water. And that was very slowly, after the 2% rise, 1%, 2%, 3% decrease in water consumption. And we could get it. Some strong results. This is the homicide rate. The biggest proudness motive in my life is having helped on 6 of these 12 years from here to here. Now we are in 18 per 100,000 in people killed intentionally in Bogota. We are not still in the level that we were in the last years. I have told that United States is about this level. It's the world's level. But it was in 14 several years ago. And this is Colombia. Colombia was in 20. And this is very important because for these years, from 1963 to 1975 about, Colombia was at the same level as Latin America. And Bogota was half of that. And today, Latin America is in 26. So Bogota is more peaceful than Latin America in average. This is the rate of people that died, that have passed away in car accidents. This was Bogota, this was Colombia, the country. So in these years there was a lot of buying of cars in Colombia. There was economical aperture, opening. And in Bogota, we succeeded in not having more increase. We had some increase here. And then we had this very strong drop. There were several actions. This is about the moment we worked on seat belts, pedagogical comparendus sort of pronouncement. I could find you, but I won't this time. But in 1 week, that would put you a fine. There were citizens' cards on MIMES, I have explained. I dissolved 9 months after the symbolic victory against corrupted traffic policers. We dissolved the police. It was a local police. And we made an arrangement with national police that had very harsher rules, more effective tools to fight against corruptions. So it's a very frequent corruption experience that has disappeared. Better pre-hospital care, of course, and signaling places where pedestrians have been killed. This is tax revenue. Bogota has gone between $200 million to $700 million in 2003 and to $1,000 million by last year. And we sold half of the energy company that allowed to the mayor Peñalosa. I was in charge 2 times. He was in the middle, and he could build a lot of public space, beautiful schools and beautiful libraries. This is a picture of Bogota's optimism. At the beginning, there was about 1/3 of optimists and 2/3 of pessimists, or almost 3/4. And this evaluated, and in this period, the tendency became that optimism predominated on pessimism, and it has been sustained by the 2 mayors that succeeded me. Can you measure social control? The answer is, it seems that yes. Have you seen a neighbor having its dog's excrements in a public space? Yes, 48%. From which did you do something? And horrible 71%, nothing. But a marvelous 29% did something. Look at for an authority, one of the 29. Aggressive verbally, 3%. Aggressive physically, fortunately, 0%. Corrected kindly, and the transgressor took it badly, 70%. Corrected kindly, and the transgressor took it kindly, 8%. So this is the marvelous 25%. Some crucial steps. We changed this language game. We spoke not much about security, only if required, but I spoke about citizenship's culture. If you have citizens, you have legality, and if you have legality, you have security. The first Security Council, I told that I clearly signaled that homicides are more important than stolen cars. We later used the sentence, life is sacred. When I was told that there were 2,600 or 2,500 homicides the year before, I was struck. And one of the members of the security team said, Mayor, it's 1/3 of these guys are criminals, killing other criminals. Don't worry so much. I said, what I have heard, authorities, we have to protect the life of crime, of criminals. Not the life of crime, the life of criminals. We used the epidemiological approach. We ordered to unify data on homicides to publish them monthly. We worked on 3 risk factors: firearms, alcohol, and family violence. The alcohol consumption in public places, public establishments, was authorized until 4 o'clock in the morning in the weekend, and we reduced that time until 1 o'clock. And this was clearly known at the level of the country and some other countries as the carrot law, because in Colombian language, to be carrot is to be self-restricted, self-regulated. Well, in my '94 campaign, I didn't speak about harmonization of law, morals, and culture. I said it more simply. I said, each one of us has a bad guy inside, and he has to control it. If we do not manage to control our bad guy and guide, and he gets more forceful, we have to rely on family and other people, even stranger people, non-familiar people. And if both I can control the bad guy and the other surrounding people and anonymous people do not allow me to control the bad guy, then I need justice and I need police. We made university curricula for 1 month full-time for 3,600 police officers. The course was called Citizens That Qualify Other Citizens as Trainers of Citizens. That was my definition of policy. Public space was very important. Public space is like sacred space for the celebration of citizenship. To be more decent with unknown people than you are with your family or your labor colleagues, it's one of the main characteristics of being a citizen. Worrying more about the rights of people that are far away from you. We changed the transport model. We did not allow national government to build a metro line in Bogota. Instead of it, we made an agreement to develop more quickly originally 16 lines of massive bus transport. My own summary is very simple: principles. There is not a single regulation system. There are 3: law, morals, and culture. There is not only legal impunity, there are 3 impunities: people that do not fear legal sanction, people that do not fear guilt or do not feel guilt, and people who do not feel shame. There are not only punishments, there are also reasons and positive mechanisms that make us accept rules. And the strength and coherence of rulings facilitate agreements. Well, against shortcut culture, participative planning is key, and environmentalism is key because they look at future as if it was closer. Many people in shortcut culture apply high discount rates. Future good is important, but it's important in a discounted way if we compare it with immediate needs and immediate pleasures. Against high transaction costs and distrust, we worked on simpler laws and procedures. There is also something that I have not spoken about, the divorce between morals and culture. Morals and culture in very religious communities are very strongly linked. What happens with yourself inside is very strongly linked to the opinion of other people. So the modernity is in part theorized and studied as the disenchantment of the world, a sort of more critical and pessimistic view of the world, and more isolation between the self and the others. So this can go in several directions. If you make strong morals, you get close to the Greek cynics. The Greek cynics were feeling themselves as, perhaps I feel sometimes like that, as citizens of the world. not citizens of a country, because they felt a sort of moral superiority, but they understood not well the power and the importance of cultural regulation. They were mocking the cultural regulation. On the other side, you can debilitate morals and you can get stronger cultural regulation. This is very linked to cultural identities and to the cultivation of those identities. Perhaps Charles Taylor's is an illustration of intellectuals that have worked in that direction, and the discussion between Habermas and Taylor is relevant to this question. There I see remedies in art and in constitutional patriotism. What is common between two North Americans, between two citizens of the United States of America? They have the same constitution. What is the common thing between two Colombians? We have the same constitution, no more, no less. That's a beautiful, inspirational perspective. In face of violence, widening expressive and instrumental repertoire was important. As rector of the National University before being mayor, I deliberately and publicly accepted that and promoted that students change physical violence by symbolic violence. There was a jail for the rector, there were a lot of sittings, occupations of buildings, but nobody could hurt nobody, and all our lives were implicitly protected. There was not fear of death. And anomie, what is anomie? It's Merton, a sociologist called Merton work. There are societies that make you internalize goals, to be oriented to success, to have a strong commitment to goals is important, but the same society has to educate you and in not using any instrument, any method. You have to win the war, but without using some kind of weapons. So my work about this is, there is a very strong social norm, negative and positive reciprocity, eye for eye, or a gift for a gift. And we have to clarify the limits of this cultural rule that is very deep, very, very deep. And in this, the deliberative democracy is a beautiful tool. You come to a meeting with one interest, and sometimes there is a miracle. You change your interest. You accept a more general interest or a more long-term interest, or you just accept reasons. In Colombia, the biggest reformer of the labor law was López Pumarejo. He was a banker. And the biggest defensor of nature that declared, that doubled the number of hectares declared as natural or in reserves or reserves for pre-Columbian culture people was Barco, and they were driven clearly by reasons. So these are 5 paths for the harmonization. Perhaps this is of interest of some people. I will make quickly my way through external readings. One by Rosemary Thorpe from Oxfam, and the other by Doris Sommer from Harvard. With Doris Sommer, we have maintained the communication, so the reading is more detailed. One of the things is putting priorities very clear. Once, and accept that reality sometimes changes priorities, and put a second ball in play. I have forbidden fireworks, artisanal fireworks, because each end of the year, about 250 persons, most of them child, were burned with fireworks.